Why did the US destroy Yemen's most critical fuel port, knowing thousands of civilians depended on it for survival? At dawn, precision-guided missiles bearing American signatures obliterated Ras Isa, a key energy hub for Houthi forces. Was this a strategic strike, or a covert punishment to destabilize the Gulf of Aden? The answer remains unclear. Yet the devastation on the ground has many questioning whether the US crossed a line this time. The scene at Ras Isa reveals unrelenting destruction. Fuel tanks, completely demolished, infrastructure, reduced to smoldering craters, and a black tide spilling into the Red Sea, signaling a potential oil spill. This spill, estimated to have spread over 6 square miles within 48 hours, threatens marine ecosystems and the fish stocks, vital to thousands of Yemeni fishermen. Environmental experts warn the disaster could cause severe pollution for years, akin to the 1989 Exxon Valdez spill. The campaign began on the 16th of March. Yemen's skies lit up again. Just hours after Israel's devastating attack, the US responded decisively. This was no warning. It was a raw display of military might. From the decks of the USS Stout and USS Jason Dunham, U.S. Navy forces unleashed a barrage of Tomahawk missiles. Each Tomahawk Block 5, measuring 20.5 feet long and weighing 3,500 pounds, carries a 1,000-pound high-explosive warhead, or cluster munitions, with a range of 550 miles. Guided by GPS and TERCOM systems, these missiles achieve accuracy within 3 feet, making them ideal for destroying fortified targets. The primary target was a coastal Houthi base used to deploy unmanned surface vessels and swarms of aerial and maritime drones. This base was a strategic linchpin. Its loss not only crippled Houthi offensive capabilities, but also their control over coastal waters. Located near the Bab al-Mandab Strait, the base had launched Samad 3 suicide boats, capable of 58 miles per hour and carrying 110-pound warheads, directly threatening international shipping lanes. After securing the initial objective, the U.S. launched a follow-on strike on the 17th of April. From the USS Harry Truman, FA-18 Super Hornet squadrons took flight, capitalizing on the Houthis' neutralized air defenses from prior operations. Each FA-18 carried 8 AGM-154 JSOW missiles weighing 1,065 pounds, equipped with fragmentation or penetrating warheads, and guided by GPS INS for an 80-mile range at high altitude. These weapons allowed pilots to strike without entering hostile airspace. The target was Yemen's Ras Isa oil port. The Iran-backed Houthis had repurposed this civilian fuel hub to launch maritime drones and suicide boats, transforming northwestern Yemen's largest energy facility and their primary fuel revenue source into a military nerve center. Despite its civilian facade, satellite intelligence, radio intercepts, and reconnaissance flights confirmed Ras Isa as the origin of attacks, housing explosives, and funding military operations. The port handled over 60% of Houthi fuel supplies, with 12 massive tanks, each holding 50,000 barrels, linked to pipelines from inland oil fields. This was a critical node, enabling Houthi threats against U.S. convoys. At 4:15 a.m., Super Hornets unleashed a salvo of AGM-154 missiles. With a range exceeding 80 miles, the jets didn't need to approach the target. Flying above 49,000 feet, they stayed beyond the reach of Houthi small arms. Houthi air defenses, already decimated, were limited to Soviet-era Igla missiles and truck-mounted ZSU anti-aircraft guns. The Igla SA-18, with a 3.2-mile range and Mach 2.3 speed, couldn't lock on to high-altitude targets. The ZSU 23-4, firing 2,000 rounds per minute, was effective only within 1.5 miles. Against jets at such heights, these defenses were as useless as fireworks. The operation was surgical. Minutes later, flames engulfed the Houthi fuel depot, and one of their last logistical strongholds vanished. The solution was simple, yet brutal. Cut the fuel, choke the funds, and halt new attacks. The result was a tactical victory, but the cost remains a question mark. Despite facing no resistance, the strike's long-term fallout looms. Less than 24 hours later, as dawn broke, the roar of F-35C engines from the Black Knight Squadron echoed across the USS Harry Truman's deck. Flying in tight formation, they headed inland toward Yemen, targeting 2 hidden weapons caches in Ma'rib province. At supersonic speeds, Houthi defenses remained silent. No radars activated, no missiles fired. In moments, the F-35S released their payload, laser-guided GBU-12 Paveway 2 bombs weighing 500 pounds with 192-pound high-explosive warheads, achieving accuracy within 3 feet. Each F-35 carried 4 bombs, enough to obliterate fortified bunkers. The resulting explosions not only destroyed the caches but underscored a grim reality. The Houthis weren't just defeated, they were nearly powerless. As Truman's crew sat for lunch, an alert blared in the U.S. Gettysburg Command Center. Radar operators spotted an unusual number of airborne targets. This time, the Houthis didn't hold back. Where they once launched a few C-802 missiles, they now unleashed their entire arsenal in a single strike, aimed at the U.S. Gettysburg. It was a desperate gamble. The Chinese-made C-802, 22.3 feet long with a 364-pound warhead, reaches 0.9 Mach and a 75-mile range, using active radar homing to lock targets. Overwhelming a frigate's defenses could breach its shield and score a hit. But the Houthis underestimated the Gettysburg commanders. The combat officer monitored the radar. The SPY system tracked 200 threats simultaneously but could only engage 12 to 18 at once. With over a dozen missiles inbound, the risk of some breaking through was real, especially with slower drones, potentially lurking to strike after the first wave. The Houthis employed a saturation tactic, pairing C-802 missiles with Shahd 136 drones, traveling at 115 miles per hour with 88-pound warheads, programmed to fly low to evade radar. Facing a firestorm, the Gettysburg's captain made a bold call, defying standard protocol to save the ship. Instead of firing 2 missiles per target, he trusted precision and math. With a near 90% success rate, he ordered 1 SM-2 missile per target. The SM-2 Block 4, 15.4 feet long and 1,558 pounds, carries a 137-pound fragmentation warhead, reaching Mach 3.5 and a 104-mile range. He believed a single fragment, from its 10,000 metal shards, could disable an enemy warhead. One by one, red dots vanished from the radar as enemy missiles fell short of the sea. 2 targets remained. The captain broke protocol again. Instead of firing at 50 miles, to allow a second shot if needed, he waited. The Gettysburg, with 10,000 rounds ready, reserved them for drones, as its 5-inch gun was useless against hypersonic missiles. IST radars tracked the incoming missiles, second by second, mile by mile. The ship braced for a close-range duel. At 7.5 miles near the minimum safe distance, the captain ordered, RIM-162, fire. Each RIM-162, weighing about 620 pounds with an 86-pound fragmentation warhead, achieves 3,045 miles per hour via its Mk-134 engine. It's among the Navy's fastest interceptors but has limits. Thrust lasts 8.5 seconds, making it a short-range, 27-mile weapon. With just 45 seconds to detect, close, and destroy a target, it's a last-resort defense. Though not ideal, the combat officer launched 2 RIM-162s as the targets crossed 27 miles. The crew held its breath. Seconds later, the radar cleared. All targets were gone. The ship had neutralized every threat. Now it was time to counterattack. After the assault on the Gettysburg, U.S. Central Command issued a sobering assessment. The Houthis retained organized resistance. Despite heavy losses, their command structure held. This meant one thing: precision weapons were needed to eliminate mobile, elusive targets. After losing fixed command centers, the Houthis shifted to mobile unit soon-armored Toyota pickups equipped with radios, antennas, and comms gear, moving at night and hiding in villages or under trees to dodge MQ-9 Reaper drones. To counter this, the U.S. Air Force deployed the GBU-53B Stormbreaker bomb. Weighing just 250 pounds with 106 pounds of explosives, Its power lies in triple mode guidance. First is infrared, using a 640x 512 pixel thermal sensor to detect exhaust heat. In Yemen's smoke and dust, this falters, so the second mode kicks in, a 94 Hz millimeter wave radar that cuts through smoke, sand, fog, and clouds with under 12-inch accuracy. If the target moves, the third mode, semi-active laser guidance, takes over, hunting relentlessly. Pilots can pre-program guidance or let the bomb decide mid-flight. Either way, Houthi mobile command units had no escape. Within 72 hours, at least 15 such vehicles were destroyed, severely disrupting their comms network. The Houthis didn't sit idle. That afternoon, after U.S. and allied naval strikes, including P-8 Poseidon jets firing missiles at enemy training camps, the Houthis hit back. The P-8 Poseidons used AGM-84 Harpoon missiles, 15.1 feet long, 1,523 pounds, with 488-pound warheads, a 77-mile range, and active radar guidance. Despite losing drone facilities, the Houthis had an ace left. As Truman's crew prepped for another mission, escort ship radars detected anomalies, not missiles or planes, but fast-moving objects, heading straight for the carrier group. The ANSPY-1 radar adjusted, revealing a swarm of over 50 Houthi drive ones, mostly Samad 3S, with 14.8-foot wingspans, 124 miles per hour speeds, and 40-pound warheads, programmed to attack in coordinated formations. To preserve missile stocks, the carrier group commander ordered an emergency launch of all F-18S from the Truman. Engines roared across the deck. The Super Hornets, armed with AIM-120 AMRAAM air-to-air missiles, took off to hunt drones, not fighters. Each F-18 carried 10 AMRAAMs, reaching Mach 4 with a 99-mile range. Designed for aircraft, AMRAAMs have proven effective against cruise missiles, spy balloons, and drones. The AIM-120D, the latest variant, uses GPS, INS, and active radar, locking targets, even through ship radar jamming. To spot small drones, pilots use the IRST Block 2, a long-range infrared sensor under the fuselage, detecting ballistic missiles at 137 miles, cruise missiles at 57 miles, and man-sized drones at 92 miles. With 12 jets airborne, Truman's air wing was ready. Over 7 hours, U.S. fighters repelled wave after wave with pinpoint accuracy. Exact numbers weren't disclosed, but dozens of drones were downed. Pilots reported the Houthis used collective suicide tactics, overwhelming with numbers but lacking the sophistication to bypass IRST systems. As night fell, the threat was neutralized, but U.S. commanders were stunned. How could a resource-constrained militia orchestrate such an air assault? Intelligence later confirmed Iran supplied drone tech and training, with electronic components smuggled through Persian Gulf ports. The U.S. is now planning a new campaign to crush the Houthis, not just militarily but symbolically. The campaign's fallout extends beyond the battlefield. Destroying Ras Isa left over 1.2 million civilians in western Yemen without critical fuel, tripling gas prices in a week. Hospitals in Sana'a and Hodeidah slashed operations due to fuel shortages for generators, causing hundreds of avoidable deaths. Yemen's already dire humanitarian crisis worsened. The UN estimates $200 million is needed for environmental cleanup and urgent aid, but international funding remains scarce. Geopolitically, the operation heightened U.S.-Iran tensions, with Tehran accusing Washington of regional destabilization. U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, while supportive, fear Houthi retaliation against their oil facilities. The international community questions the legality of striking a civilian site, like Ras Isa, with some human rights groups calling for war crimes investigations. Smoke still rises from Ras Isa. As missiles return to silos and pilots to carriers, one question lingers. Will destroying the fuel supply end the war or fan the flames of conflict? More critically, is the U.S. prepared to face the humanitarian and strategic costs it has, wittingly or not, unleashed?